Hey guys, what up? Coming at you, Bruce Lee style. So, you want to study philosophy but you can't afford college and you don't want to go into a field with little to no job guarantee. Well, you came to the right place. Who's got two thumbs and knows how to study philosophy? This motherfucker. Philosophy isn't as easy as watching a couple of videos on YouTube like The School of Life or me, myself. So here's some advice from me to you guys. First of all, read what you want. You're never gonna read certain Kierkegaard if you think you have to read Hegel first. That shit doesn't compute. And you're never gonna read sexuality if you think you have to read Lacan, Hegel and Marx first. My point is, read who you want to read. Okay, if you want to read Jean-Paul Sartre, you go read Jean-Paul Sartre. You want to read Martin Heidegger? Well, who hurt you? But you should go read Heidegger. However, philosophy is very context-based. Philosophers work off of each other, they reference each other all the time. What do you do if you have to catch up on something before you read a certain philosopher? That's easy, you just gotta brush up on your knowledge of secondary literature. So break out your overview texts, your podcasts, your videos, your summaries, someone else's interpretation of a text, or if you want to break through to another layer of learning, you could break out your encyclopedic sources, flick through them. My advice would be to go for the Stanford Encyclopedia linked below. Remember, you're spending your valuable time doing this all the time, so keep it enjoyable. Do what you want. Read who you want to read about the subject you want to read. If you want to read about metaphysics, you should do that, even though that's crazy, but you should go do that. If you want to read about critical theory, you should go read critical theory. Do you. That's basically it. Secondly, use your secondary literature very strategically. Generally, I want you to try and stick with the primary source. Get down and dirty with the philosopher, engage with their own words, try to figure out how they write. But secondary literature should not just be reserved for you catching up to the particular philosopher you want to read about. You should have secondary literature as you're reading what you want to read. You should think of them as toolboxes. They're great for meaning making and for accompanying pieces. Like if you're gonna read this book, 1,000 Plateaus by Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari, you gotta have some study guides with you, okay? And secondary literature is very great for general meaning making as well. In textbooks and in journals, you're gonna find people discussing all of these philosophical problems all the time. Whether that be important concepts or interpretations or clarifying individual sentences, secondary literature can help you out. Because philosophers are notorious for writing poorly and glossing over important things. But be mindful, even though they are very well argued, usually they are still just interpretations of a certain text. No one can give you the exact truth to a text apart from the philosopher, and even that is a very dubious claim to make. Learn, participate, argue, make up your own mind when it comes to these things, and you'll be well on your way to understanding philosophy. Mind the translation. If you're reading Nietzsche, you should stick with the Walter Kaufmann translations of his work. And if you're reading Heidegger, you should probably stick with John Macquarie's translations of his works. My point is, look for which translations are considered the best for each work, or perhaps even for each philosopher. Look for notable discussions in that field as well. For example, how the first line of The Stranger by Albert Camus should be translated into English. If you want to study philosophy in your own language, and you only speak a language with very few speakers, the quality of translations may vary. So perhaps look into whether translations are better in English or in something else you know. Furthermore, you might skip forewords, prefaces, acknowledgements, etc., but try to do yourself the favor of at least skimming through the translator's introduction. It will explain to you the style of that translator, whether they went for a literal translation or a more meaning-oriented translation. What are certain simple means, etc. Realize that nothing is right. The way you study philosophy is entirely up to you. Some people will tell you to do a chronological reading of philosophy, starting from Plato, going all the way up to now. And some people, my god, they will tell you to read a shit ton of introductory text before you even crack open a philosophy book, a proper philosophy text. Figure out your own way of studying, change things if they don't work, try something new if you haven't tried it. Don't get bogged down in how people think you should study philosophy. There are a million ways of doing this. There's no one true, real, correct way. Just do you. In the description box below, I've linked to Existential Comics' advice to studying philosophy. You should check that out. And let me know in the comment section below how you study philosophy. I hope you'll like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Bye, Felicia.